I'm also sorry, R.L. Stine, for this. People call it sort of formulaic. Defeat writer's block. He's written so many books. Okay, I'm freaking out again, it's fine. Hey guys, I'm Kate. Welcome back to my channel, and because it is spooky season, I thought there was no one better to do the next installment of I Tried Writing Like than Mr. R.L. Stine. I think I can safely say that he is a childhood and like writing hero for a lot of us. I know that he got a lot of my friends as kids into reading, which is an incredible accomplishment, something that I think ooh. Once I publish something, I would love for someone to say that like my books got them into reading again or for the first time or made a difference to them or all this stuff, and I think the Goosebumps series has done that for so many of us. But it's not just our general feelings, our collective feelings of like awe. He has sold 400 million copies of his books. Just to put that in perspective, that is more people than the population of the United States. What? Sometimes when I think about numbers and math, even as a numbers and math person, it seems made up. 400 million copies of a book with your name on it sounds like a made up thing. Like, imagine every person in the United States could stand and be holding a copy of R.L. Stine's book, and there would be more R.L. Stine books circulating in the world. Like, that's just, it's insane. How cool? How cool? What? Anyways. Excuse my freak out. But the other reason that I especially wanted to try writing like R.L. Stine this time is because going into NaNoWriMo, I think he has the mindset, I guess, that I'm trying to replicate or trying to get more into. Now, first off, I feel like I should say he doesn't really have a set routine in the same way that a lot of the others I've tried writing like had more of a set routine. He basically gets up and starts writing somewhere 9:30, 10. There were differing accounts of when he started working, and then he said he's usually done by 3, but it's not like he writes from that time to that time. It's not like 9 to 3 every day, although he does write 6 days a week. It's more that he aims to get a specific amount of words done. Again, I have seen differing numbers for this, but mostly it's like around 2,000 words. When he gets the words, he's done and he moves on. He's good for the day. And I think that sounds awesome. But also the most challenging for me when I think about R.L. Stine's routine, or perhaps more so his process, is that he's written so many books. Okay, I'm freaking out again, it's fine. Over 300 books, right? Is that the right number at this point? I'm gonna have to look this up again. How many books has R.L. Stine written? Google, why do you do this? Was it the Nora Roberts one? I think it was the Nora Roberts one where it pulled up at least this tiny number. It's just like, no shit. I do think it's funny that these are the follow-up questions. That is R.L. Stine still writing books is actually kind of one of his pet peeves. People thinking he's just disappeared, and he's like, no, I'm here. Okay, he has a fan website where he mentioned 300 books so far. Yeah, I think that's where I got that. Basically, a lot, okay? A lot. And the actual like start to stop time is so quick because he spends basically 4 to 5 days before he starts writing heavily outlining the books. Like, his whole thing is that you can defeat writer's block by basically having a really good laid plan. So he outlines for 4 or 5 days, very in depth, chapter by chapter, all this stuff. Let me highlight this bit for you. Kids always ask me about writer's block, and I say if you plan out the whole thing first, then you can't have writer's block. You've done the hard part, and then I just have fun with the writing. It takes me 3 to 4 weeks to write a Fear Street novel. In 2 weeks, I can write a Goosebumps novel. So you can see why I especially wanted to do his routine ahead of NaNoWriMo, where the point is to write 50,000 words in a month, and I have been doing all of this prep in the hopes that with Project Death I will be able to actually accomplish a first draft, a full first draft, which will be more than the 50,000 words, but I've put in all the prep, so theoretically I could do it. So during the next 2 days while I'm trying to copy his routine, I'm gonna do something a little bit different. I'm gonna be splitting this up because I wanna replicate his process kind of as much as I can, given the fact that I don't actually want to write any words in Project Death until NaNoWriMo time, November 1st. So I'm going to attempt to plot a quarter of my novel that I haven't already plotted and outline it on my timeline. This guy. And also attempt to get the 2,000 words in a different project, so I can get a feel for things, and then I will just stop writing in whichever day once I achieve those things. Yeah. Now the other thing I want to note before I start working, I'm running out of time, is a big way in which R.L. Stine is different from me is that he pulls a lot of inspiration for his books from their titles. Like the title comes to him first and then he comes up with the concept and like the plot and everything. And he does all the other stuff, but after he has the title. Which, you know, is just not, I'm bad with titles. So I'm also going to take more of his spirit, more of the R.L. Stine writing spirit into account while doing his routine. And I'm gonna try and come up with some different working titles, potentially for Project Death. I'm not gonna try and stick with any because I know Project Death is Project Death at this point, but I wanna brainstorm them. I wanna make an active effort to get better at this kind of thing. So that's what I'm gonna do. Also, before we start, because it shocked me, I wanna share that R.L. Stine's actual first name is Bob. He goes by Bob. I don't know that I reasonably expected him to be called like R.L. in person, but what? Bob? But it is now 9:36, so it is definitely time for me to start working. I'm actually going to pull out a couple things. This is just paper that I'm going to use to write like some basic notes on, because I personally like to do my brainstorming with a mixture of handwriting and actually putting it on the computer once I'm a little bit more sure of things. So we're gonna do a little bit of everything, honestly. Yay! Yikes. Okay. I had an epiphany. Here is my terrible note system that makes no sense. Not really even to me, but I had an epiphany on some of the armor's motivations and backstory. It's so funny because it was like I had everything set up to do this thing. Somewhere the writer brain knew all about it before I had enough of the wherewithal to realize it and write it down. It just fits. It makes so much sense. Anyways, awesome. This is great. So now I have a way to fit it into the plot. The question's gonna be what scenes will actually come of it, but I do know it'll be toward the end. And the thing that should happen because of it, yes. I definitely have not made near enough progress. I've added 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plot points. And to do the quarter that I'm hoping to do, I need to add like 20 more. So. What? Someone is at the door. Good job, buddy. Did you get him? Oh, good job. Back to trying to be R.L. Stine. Okay, so I lied. Now I have all of the plot points that would be on my zero draft, and I have all of that sorted out, figured out. So from this point on, I am moving forward with the notes I've taken and the basic plotting and other stuff I've already sort of done, but now I have to actually put it on the timeline and figure it out. Yeah. One other thing to note. As I was doing this, I did have some orange colors throughout the rest of the timeline toward the end, basically because I don't know if the way I did it in the zero draft works with what I'm thinking the end's going to be. So those scenes may be scrapped entirely or replaced with something that serves a similar purpose but is actually better for the story. So I've thought a lot about things. It's actually now, what time is it? How is this possible? It is now 1:03. So I've been at this for like 3.5 hours now. I've had a couple of interruptions, but so much of this has been the brainstorming, and now I have 48 plot points and I started the day with, I've added about 20 or so, which is very good and could count potentially as almost a quarter. I actually think I might, by the end of this, have like 100 plot points. So I'm doing the plot points and keeping all of the motivations for each of the characters, the relationship changes and whatever in my head for now, or making note of them on my computer. What I think R.L. Stine does, because he has a very in-depth outline. Obviously, if he's focusing 4 days and is able to streamline the complete first draft writing process, it's gotta be thorough. Again, I think the goal for today is I'm gonna go forth. I will go forward and add some more plot points here. If I can get 10 more, I'll feel good about things, and then I will start adding in more thorough notes on the relationships, on the changing motivations, and on like the subplots. Yeah. the actual visual representation of what I've mostly been doing is just sitting and staring, because the main characters that are the outcomes are going to be potentially vastly different are the armor, obviously my main character, and the best friend. I'm hoping to have a kind of mirrored effect. I always love that when you can bring it back, but like the story really starts with them in some ways, and then I think the ending needs to be most powerful with them, right? But I'm sitting here and like I occasionally add notes because in my brain I'm running through how I'm going to loop them all together. Plus side, I do have the ending for each of them. I actually haven't written down the ending for the best friend, but the armor is a little bit more full right now. The main character is lacking in comparison. Not because I don't know, like she's literally the I, like it's told in first person point of view. So I know the most about her, could be argued, but in some ways that's making it harder. Now, because I've been talking about NaNoWriMo so much, I do want to focus in on a hack I think is really good for NaNoWriMo potentially. So R.L. Stine actually has this on like his own website. He'll go and visit schools and do stuff like that, but we're going to scroll all the way to the very end of this, you know, 17-page program. Dun dun dun, R.L. Stine's top 10 tips for curing writer's block. Ooh, ah. Or maybe like, ooh, ah. I don't know. If they're scary. But the idea I love the most is this one. If you're still stuck, don't throw away the idea. Try changing it a little. Try writing it from another character's point of view. Try telling the story in another character's voice. So I actually have done that for this story because the three characters are so important. Like, I mean, the characters are always important for every story, but sometimes some characters are more important than others, and because of the difference between the endings, I actually have the main character, the best friend, and the armor, and I wrote these stories from their points of view. And I think I'm definitely, when I'm stuck during NaNoWriMo, if I don't want to think about don'ts. I'm gonna totally have the outline perfected by then. But worst case scenario, if I am stuck, I do think that's something that I will absolutely fall back on, and actually maybe is something that I should try doing. Okay, I'm changing my plans. Tomorrow when I do this, I am going to write 2,000 words from the armor's point of view and the best friend's point of view, and yes, I think that will help. Alrighty, I now have 9 new things added. I did separate some of the green and the blue. The blue is because I'm certain that's how it's going to end. The green is what I'm certain of before the final falling action of the book, I guess is how I should say it. So I'm still needing to reach the climax, and there's some stuff that I need to put in there, but those moments leading up to it, I'm positive of. Before today's done though, I did want to talk about one other thing regarding R.L. Stine. So I did go and pick up one of his books that I want to read while I'm on my trip to Disney World over the first few days of NaNoWriMo. This one is The Headless Ghost. Hoo-hoo. But while I was there, I took a quick video of just how many Goosebumps books there are, and this one actually has a little spot for, like, you remember the old school where you'd have to, oh my god, anyways, major headache. But what I wanted to talk about, and it's a criticism that I haven't personally seen much of, though I guess I haven't really investigated it, is that when someone writes something really quickly and within the same genre and all this stuff, oftentimes people call it sort of formulaic, like the way romance novels are often considered formulaic. This series, the fact that he's able to outline in 4 days and then write Goosebumps in 2 weeks, like, it makes you question you being a general you, because I don't think that it's formulaic any more than romance is, and it's the difference here between being formulaic meaning boring, it's more like it's formulaic in that a lot of romance, you know that you have to have a happy ending. There are certain genre tropes, but they're more like genre rules. People going into these genres, Goosebumps books, you have an expectation. Now, all of these are different individual books, and that is why people just devour them, because when you find something that you love, you want more of it. Maybe that's why I love my trashy Hallmark movies so much. You know, I know what to expect when I sit down, and it always gives me what I expect. And there's something to be said for that. And when you're an excellent writer like this, you can do hundreds of them and it never gets tiring. But I just wanted to talk about that a little bit because I've been seeing that criticism, at least against romance. I know it's always been around there because people are kind of genre snobs, but I think it's worth mentioning, especially because of the speed with which he writes. And to that end, I actually want to read a final quote to you to end like today's portion of this challenge. The person who wrote this article writes, during the writing process, he developed his trademark cliffhanger chapter structure, something he picked up in his humor career. In fact, Stine says the line between humor and horror isn't all that distinct. Horror is like a roller coaster in which the intention is to laugh and scream simultaneously, and a cliffhanger is a lot like a punchline. I think after I came up with that, it was easy, he says. Then it was storytelling. I had to dramatically close my computer, so yeah. I also love that he basically went through two different types of writing, from, you know, this joke and this comedy writing to like middle grade horror stuff. Much like reading diversely and reading in a bunch of different genres, actually trying to write in a lot of different genres can sometimes help you to grow, even if it's not something that you'll maintain over time. Like, I still hold that frickin' NaNoWriMo 2017, I had a crazy time trying to write in adult sci-fi for the first time, but it did teach me a lot about writing and just struggling through certain aspects that I hadn't struggled through before, that I think I carried over those lessons learned into all of the other genres and stories that I've written. So yeah, and it is now almost 3 o'clock, so I am done. Okay, so it is now Friday. It's the day after my experiment has ended. I want to go over some notes with you on things that I did, because I talked about how I was going to try and come up with titles, right? Ooh, buddy. So where is this? Where are my titles? Here they are. Oh, this is gonna be a yikes. So before the titles, I guess I should say that I found the writing of the 2,000 words really easy. I didn't have any epiphanies at the moment, but I just finished a Patreon live stream where I had an epiphany because there was something wrong with my timeline. Okay, there was something off. And I didn't realize exactly what the off thing was, except that yesterday when I was writing the short stories from the armorer's point of view, I realized that a plot point that I had happening couldn't happen. Like, he as a character would not allow this to happen. And I'm sure somewhere in my brain I knew this, because why else would I have chosen this short story to write if not to eventually teach myself the lesson that he wouldn't do this, right? He would not stand for it. So I had the epiphany, I changed the story a little bit at the end. It actually doesn't change all that much, except for the rest of this 60 to 80% way through, which is still eluding me. R.L. Stine, I tried. I don't know that I can plot something in 4 to 5 days, I guess that's what I'm saying. But I also did then try to come up with titles for Project Death. It's fine. Okay, some options are a named price. I'm just gonna speed through these actually because they're so terrible. A named price, my name is Tuovi Toron, death becomes them, which is, when I googled it later, apparently a Charmed episode, so that's fine. And the name of death, a girl from the sticks, I hate it. The price of death, which is actually a movie already, and a heavy price. I don't know why my brain that entire day was so focused on the price, because there is, you know, oh God, it was so bad. I also was trying to come up with some way I could play off of the word desert or like something arid and all this stuff, and it's fine. I don't like any of them. I don't mind death becomes them, but I also don't think it gives the right vibe. In the name of death also kind of works for the naming and the death thing, but it feels very on the nose and I don't know. And then my name is Tuovi Toron, because names are so important. The fact that she, the main character, tells us what her name is at the end of the first chapter is an interesting setup and all this stuff, but I was like, I don't know that I like that any more than anything else. And I mean, it would be a big deal, I think, if you could see my name is Tuovi Toron and then you'd go to the back cover of the book and it's talking about the fact that in this world, names can be traded to death and all this stuff. And you're like, oh, interesting. Like, I think something about that's interesting, but I don't know that that is a title. Like, there's a lot of my name is blank or her name was blank or something kind of things. I'm also sorry, R.L. Stine, for this. Having said all that, I do think I am more prepared for NaNoWriMo now, and I am going to continue to take chunks of my day where it's exclusively about trying to outline before writing. I would just love so badly to get this timeline figured out before November 1st. And then I can just write the whole way through, and that way I won't ever get stuck. Theoretically, I wouldn't have any 0 word days going by the R.L. Stine method if I could just figure out the timeline first. I don't know that that's gonna happen, but I'm gonna try and take his spirit into account as I continue through the next month and a half or so, depending on how long this takes me and if I reach my actual NaNoWriMo goal of finishing a first draft. Okay. But before this video ends, I do want to finish off with one final quote by R.L. Stine asking about what his worst writing advice is. The writing advice he hates. And the quote goes, "Well, I hate it when authors come into school and they say to kids, write from your heart, write from your heart. Only write what you know and write from your heart. I hate that because it's useless. I've written over 300 books. Not one was written from my heart. Not one. They were all written for an audience. They were all written to entertain a certain audience." And I think that's something brilliant to keep in mind. It's a twist on the write what you know advice. I made a video about the worst writing advice people have received before, and other authors I think will disagree with that, other genre writers, other literary writers, whatever, but I appreciate that R.L. Stine, in his mind, having written 300 books, puts his audience first and thinks about how he can best entertain them. And when I'm personally looking for a book, oftentimes I'm looking to be entertained. I'm looking to be moved and like to learn more, even within fiction. But having said that, my main objective as a writer is to entertain, and my main objective, the thing I want most as a reader, is also to be entertained. So I just personally love that. But all right, that is gonna be it for me. Please do comment down below. Let me know what you think of R.L. Stine's, maybe not his routine so much as just his overall process, his mindset with regards to writing. Do you have a particular author in mind you might be trying to channel for NaNoWriMo? But thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you especially to some of my new patrons this month: Marshall, Rebecca Armstrong, Drea, Nikita Cassidy, writer Marcus Regis, Benjamin Coe, and Bela Valenzuela, and I will see you all very soon with a new video. Bye. Maybe, like, what am I trying to say here? Try that one more time. Thanks, hello, okay. I don't know why I'm saying Bob so funnily. Bob, Bob, Bob.